to use the mic. Okay. So ask any question you have. By the way, I want to ask a few persons like Bisola and who again? Water and Izzy. The four of you, I want to add something to your project. But this is outside the questions. Please, if you have any question, ask. Any question, ask. So the four of you, the people I mentioned their name, what is contained in a portfolio of a backend developer? How does it look like? Whatever you do now, that's what will be in your backend project portfolio. The skills you work with, technologies you work with. Technologies, I mean Express.js, Mongoose, Bcrypt, those are going to be there. And also you take your time to actually not just list the project you worked on, but list out all your responsibilities and everything you did on that project. For example, you were able to hash user password before saving them. You're able to verify tokens. You're also able to make sure that only those who have tokens are able to log in, access any other thing by validating their token. So you just take your time to list out what you've done and then list out all the technologies you used for each project. If you worked on one project or one assignment or two assignments, for each of those assignments or projects, you list out the technologies you use and what you did in each of them. That's what is supposed to be in your portfolio. Yeah, your previous question. Now, if you put all your schema in one file, it will still work. It works, but the problem is that you're going to have so long file and you can mix things up when you are making changes to one particular schema. So it's better to keep them in different schemas and not tamper with a schema that you're not working on. It'll be easier and you see everything. So the better way is just to put them in different files. And the second one is now a lot of persons have their pattern of writing coding, but if you come to Node.js and MongoDB, it all follows the same pattern. Just a few things might be different. I know some projects I write, my schema might be a little different, but it's not too obvious. It's just it's sometimes I do my validations in the schema. It depends. Now it depends on when they are asking for certain things. Now sometimes they want you to do a little validation before you save the user details, and I can do that in the schema too. Sometimes I do it in the middleware. Depends. So that doesn't mean that the pattern for the schemas are different. No, it just depends on your mood and that time how you're feeling. So, but they're generally the same. They are all the same, but developers can have small stylish they want to add to it. And also, what makes you a better developer? Actually, it doesn't really mean that you're a better developer. Every backend developer, when you are building a project, have in mind that you will be the one that will see that project at the end of it. So what am I saying? If you are hired by a company to start a project, be rest assured that as long as that project is still alive, you will still be the backend developer working on it. All they will do is they will hire more developers, more backend developers to add to you. So whatever code you are writing, you make sure you write it in a way that 2 years from now, or maybe 1 year from now, you still understand what you are writing. Which is why, even though you have the flexibility of writing it in different patterns, it's good to keep it very simple. Keep it in a way you will understand it. Although that is tricky also. If everybody can understand your code, they will replace you easily. But if they can't understand your code, they will not replace you easily. But in a situation where there are no plenty backend developers, replacing one backend developer that is very good is very difficult. Yeah, project that you've worked on, be rest assured that you'll be the one continuing on that project. Finally, the certification. Now, this certification, this is what I want to add to a few projects. The certificate comes after your incubation program. Now, but for these persons, I call their names. I want you to create an endpoint. What the endpoint will do it is going to, you accept the user email. It will accept the student email, like your fellow student's email. It's going to also try and validate the user email, like find the user on the database, and then take their name, attach it to certificate, and send it to that email. So that is what I want to add to the project. Now I forgot this. I was supposed to make it like one standalone project on its own, but it's not big. It's just simple one endpoint. An endpoint that accepts the user email, that is student's email, run a little validation, confirm that they are actually on the database, and then take that name, their email, take that name that will be found from the user, and attach it to a certificate and send it to their email. So your certificate comes after the incubation program. Now for the project, you have 3 weeks, meaning this week is the 10th week, 11th week, and the 12th week. So if you started, I gave you the project on the 9th week, so your project should be ending on the 12th week. So that is when you have to end your project. So I think I've answered that. Okay, how to send the bearer token? We're gonna do that again, and we'll see how to send the bearer token. Can the MongoDB be used to save images? Yeah, MongoDB can be used to save images, but I don't advise that. If you are building a backend project, one of the things they will grade you on is speed. How fast or how very fast your backend project is. I remember one job I lost is actually a foreign gig, and when I built the backend, I was tested for speed, and I think mine was running on either 0.3 seconds or 0.5 seconds. But the guy who got the job, his project was running on 0.0, like 0.0 seconds. So I don't know if it was my MTN or if it's the way I structured my backend, but for the fact that my backend runs in seconds, actually in milliseconds, was something good to be proud of. But somebody's own was running a little faster than that. So what am I saying? You don't want to upload images to your backend because it's going to slow down your backend. What you rather do is tell the front end to upload the images to Cloudinary, to any cloud of their choice, and send you the URL. So what you are saving is the URL of the image, where the image is located, instead of the actual image. So you don't want to save images on your backend. Yes, you are creating file for eSchema. You know why? Yeah, I think I'm recording also. Yeah, I'm recording. No, it's not supposed to. You can't put the wrong password and it brings out what you are saying, if not match. So you're saying password and user password, and then it returns incorrect password if not match. Now this should work. The only time this will not work is if this password, there's no way, that you enter a wrong password different from what has been saved and it will tell you it's logged in successfully. There's no way. There's no way. So check, share the code. Just if you can screen grab the code, just share the code and tell us what. So for where are they again? I've missed Karim. Who again? Walter. I remember Walter. Az. Who was the last person? Somebody's name I forgot. But for these people I mentioned their name, please, if it's something you can do, just let me know. I will. If it's something you can do, yeah, Bisola. So if it's something you want to try, please let me know. I will supervise it myself for that endpoint, for that particular endpoint. And the endpoint is supposed to accept students' detail, run it through their database, and then yeah, don't worry, as they were going to do the deployment again, and you see it. It's going to where. Okay, Bisola will do it. Eze, will you do it? Joshua, you want to join? You already have your project, as in you have your project too. This is an extra endpoint we're asking for. I'm asking for an extra endpoint that will be in your project. I was supposed to add it as a standalone project, but it's no longer going to be a standalone project. It's just one endpoint. Build one endpoint that accepts the user email. Find the user on their database and send them a certificate to their email. Simple. I just told you now, yes, images can be stored, but you don't want to do that because it's going to slow down your backend. So instead, you save the URL to the images. So they upload the images to the cloud and then send you the URL, and you save the URL for the images. Yes, for all your projects, please, every route, apart from the registration and the login route, every other route is a protected route. So make sure you validate token. Karim, for your project is still your project, but I'm adding one extra endpoint. What the endpoint will do is accept the user email, search for them on the database, make sure they are there, then use their name, attach it on a certificate and send it to them as an email. So that is the endpoint and what it will do. I'll wait then. I'll wait. But I think compare, I don't think, yeah, but I'll wait for this. Depend on how many times you hash this password to, and it's going to be 8 times, but just wait for it. And it's not supposed to repeat that. So get the email and password. I wait, find the user. If no user account, password check. So this is supposed to return true or false. Now, if it is false, incorrect password. So I wait for this, and that should solve the issue. It can't return. Or your try catch, is it outside? No, it's not. It shouldn't. All right, so that on one side. And the next thing is we're going to talk about deploying that project. I was able to deploy it. I wish I knew I wouldn't have done it alone. We would have done it together, but I was tired, so I had to just take that break. So I didn't do much to debug the deployment stuff. It was just to install a new bcrypt. Bcrypt was the issue, so I installed a new bcrypt. So I'm going to explain that to you, and then we deploy it again. Bisola, you just said it here apart from the login. Why are you including it in the login again? The token validation should be included in every other route except for your registration and login. Now, every other route that has to do with doing something on your backend must be validated. Except you don't want them to log in, because validation means that they must be logged in. That's what token validation means. Token validation means they must be logged in. So except for that route, you don't want them to be logged in, then you don't need to validate. But if you require users to log in, then you must validate their token. So like I said, npm run dev. The project was working fine, but it got to the point where we were about to deploy it, then we had errors. So that error is what I want to explain to you now. So when you are deploying a project, or when you are working on a project, These things you see here, I just want to believe you can see them. These things here, these numbers here are the updates and the version numbers. So this is bcrypt version 5, bcrypt.js version 2, .env version 16, express version 4. So that means that you have other versions, other lower versions. I just hope my network is not acting up again. So there is every possibility when you are working on a big project that if you have Node Mailer or Mongoose or JSON Web Token, they will be throwing errors. There is every possibility that can happen. Now, if that happens, it's not because you don't Okay, we're back. I'm sorry for that. I just hope this network will allow us. We're almost done with the backend. We're almost done, but a few things we need to cover. The send email function in the register API, will it automatically change the password for every registration? Stephen, I don't know why you want to change every email on password. Now, the function I gave you is like a format for sending users email. So if you want to create a function that will be, as a matter of fact, if you're building a real life project, you're going to have so many of those functions. One of them will be for registration, sending users activate token. One of them will be to recover password. When users want to recover their password, forgot password. So you have so many emails. Another one will be for activating, sending them a success message that their account has been activated. Welcome to our platform, something like that. So that one I gave you is not the only function you will have. You have so many functions. For example, this one now that I am giving assigning projects to send user certificate. You're going to create a different function that sends certificates to different users. So for your question, I don't know why you want to automatically change the user's password, but if that's what you want, hey, go ahead. You are in charge of the backend. Just go ahead. Sorry for the break in transmission. Yeah, I think I have been recording and I am still recording. So I wanted to explain to you one of your biggest errors that you will encounter in the backend. That error is going to be the error. I think I am sharing my screen, but let me stop and share again. I'll stop. Then let me share again. Can you see my screen, Joshua? Can anyone see my screen? Okay, so the error of version numbers. Now, version numbers can actually affect your project. Now, sometimes version of this bcrypt can be unstable. The version you installed for .env can be unstable. The version you have here can be unstable. Now, what was causing our error was from bcrypt. This version 5.11 was unstable or is unstable. The stable one is version 1.0. So, but that's not the one we installed. We installed this one. So our error was coming from this bcrypt. We installed the latest one. Now the same thing is applicable to Node.js. If you install the latest Node.js, sometimes it can be unstable. It can't. So what you need to do is install the one that is stable, very stable. Now it happens the same way with all of these packages. Now it doesn't mean that what you are doing, or you don't know what you are doing, or you don't know how to code the backend. No, you are going to encounter so many errors, and the number of errors you fix will determine how good you will become on the backend. Now there are so many errors I've encountered. There is no way to know a stable version. If you install it and you're getting errors, then you know where it's coming from. Now, from example, what I did was to change from bcrypt to bcrypt.js. Now, I didn't know. I just switched to bcrypt.js, but I'm going to still keep it at bcrypt and deploy it again. I'm just going to leave it at bcrypt and deploy it again. Yes, you can install all your dependencies at once before you start. That is if you know what you will be building and you know all the dependencies you will need. Then you can install all of them at once and before you start your project. So I want to deploy this project again and tell you how I knew that bcrypt was the issue. I just hope it will crash again because maybe it's now stable and it will not crash again. Render dashboard. And like I said, render is also good with Heroku, the same way you deploy with render. And there are other ones, there's cyclic too. They all work the same way. There is no way to know which version is stable. There is no way to know, except you've encountered errors with it. You're going to see a lot of developers out there telling you this is unstable. I think I was doing something on a mobile app and doing with .env, and I realized that the latest version of .env is actually unstable on mobile apps, not on the website, on mobile apps. And I wasn't the only one going through that issue for that day. A lot of persons were putting up their own complaints that they had the same error. So here I have my dashboard. I want to create a new one, and like I said, you must first deploy this to GitHub. That's the easiest way. You must first push your code to GitHub, and I have my code here on GitHub. If I go to repositories, here it is, cohort 2. So what I'll do is try to create a new web service, and it's called cohort 2. I'll click on connect. And for those who say we should deploy again, we're doing it again. You're free to change the name if you want, but I'm leaving everything default. but you're free to change the name if you want. I'll keep everything as default. Make sure you're picking the free version. Make sure you're picking the free version. And also, if you want to deploy all your what is it called, .env at once, you can paste them here immediately, or you can add them one after another, or you just copy everything in your .env and paste. But I'm not going to add it because I know that this deployment will fail. Hopefully it should fail. So I'll go ahead and click on deploy. Now there is nothing much here if you are deploying your backend. For now, there is nothing much here to be done. So I'll just click on deploy, hoping that it will deploy, or it will fail rather. I want it to actually fail. So it will start cloning, installing packages, setting up everything, uploading, and building the project. So now it's uploading build, and it says build is successful, and now it's trying to deploy. I know it will fail, but we're just trying to go through it because one thing that makes you a better developer is reading the error messages. Reading error messages. So it's requesting, okay, specify version, running node index. Okay, it did not crash, ladies and gentlemen. It did not crash again, no. It's running now. It says your service is live. It did not crash. So sometimes it happens, what you are working with can be unstable, but when complaints go out, the people who are in charge will fix it before you know it, and you start running again. So I was hoping that this is going to crash, but it did not. So what did I do? But Firebase is actually a backend on its own. So hosting a new backend is a different ball game. So Firebase is typically a backend, but it's not hosting a backend there doesn't really make sense. But you can. I haven't done it before because I rather use Firebase as a backend. I don't build a different backend and host it on Firebase. So the service has actually deployed. It did not fail. But let me show you what I did. I just installed bcrypt.js. That's what I did, and changed the bcrypt here to bcrypt.js. That's what I did yesterday. And here, I was thinking that it is the Node version that is my problem, but I don't know whether that is the problem. So what I then did again was to specify that the Node version should be Node version 18, any of the Node version 18, because I know that Node version 18 is stable. I have used it. The current version now is version 20. No, the latest one I think is version 21 or 22. So, and I know that the one where I'm using is currently version 20. But I have used version 16, it's stable. I've used version 18, it's stable. I've also used version 20, it's also stable. So I had to include that the Node version should be Node version 18. So these two things helped solve the error yesterday, and it worked. But today, without them, it's actually working. So without, I'll delete all of it and fall back to default. I'll delete everything and fall back to default the way it was yesterday and deploy again, see whether it's going to deploy or if it's going to fail. So that's what I'll do. I'll delete this. I was hoping it to fail, but it did not. So it is gone. I will update my GitHub by pushing again to that GitHub repo. Git add dot git commit, git push origin master. So I've pushed it. I want to deploy again. Click on web service. Connect the repo you want to deploy. Click on connect. If you want to change the name, you go ahead, but I don't want to change the name. I'll keep it on free. And you can go ahead and add this .env. Now, even if you don't add it here, you can always add your .env after you've deployed. So it's not compulsory that you must add it before you deploy. You can actually add them before you deploy. So I will deploy again. Click on deploy. It is building. And it's uploading. You don't deploy twice. You deploy once. But what you will be doing is updating the code base on GitHub. So if you update the code base on GitHub, it will automatically pick it up. That is what Render does. Heroku does that too. You have to set it up, automatic deploy. So automatic deploy to just pick up the code. So, but you don't deploy twice. You just deploy once and keep updating your code base on GitHub. It will pick it up automatically. Let me see. I just hope it doesn't fail this time. Okay. While I'm answering your question, is it applicable to other hosting servers? Now, every hosting server has a way they deploy, but for all the servers that will permit you to deploy from GitHub is applicable to all of them. Now, some of them offer two options. GitHub is one of them. So if they offer you the option of deploying via GitHub, it means that you cannot be updating your code on GitHub and the server will automatically pick up the changes. You don't need to bring down the server. It automatically pick up the changes and move on. Looks like this one is going to fail. Okay, this one failed. The reason why it failed is because version 20 of Node doesn't work well with this version of Bcrypt. Yeah, so this version of Bcrypt and this version of Node, they don't work well together. So it means that what I did to actually solve it is either you are going to go with Bcrypt.js or you change the Node version to a stable Node version, a more stable Node version. Yes, it's applicable to private projects. It's applicable. So if your repo is private, it's still applicable. No port detected. Continuing to scan. So this project failed. Like I said, there are two ways to solve this error now. One of them is to go ahead and deploy, go with Bcrypt.js. That you have to install Bcrypt.js and then rename this from Bcrypt to Bcrypt.js. Or you come back here and change the node engine. So you say engines, the node version should be version 18. Now you can go with any stable version, but I know that version 18 is stable. What front end will be using to deploy the backend? What front end will be using to deploy? Ayo, if I get your question correctly, you mean what front end are we go? Can we also use Postman to test the deploy backend? Yes, we can use Postman to test the deploy backend, and we're going to do that. I will also send you the URL so that you also test it on your own end. So I said the two ways to solve this error: include the engine to be Node version 18, or change your bcrypt to bcrypt.js. Yes, bcrypt.js is a different version of bcrypt. It's not bcrypt actually, bcrypt. There's no I here. So, or set the Node version to be Node version 18. This is for Heroku. It's not, this is for render. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's going to be applicable in all cloud deployments. No, this is specifically for render. Render is telling you that in their own cloud, for their own cloud, this version of bcrypt and this version of Node do not go together. That is what render is saying. But for Heroku, I'm sure it will work. For DigitalOcean or any other one, I'm very sure it will also work. So I will try deploying again by pushing that code base again. I'll push this again. Git add dot, git commit updated, git push origin master. So I think this is going to solve the problem. It should automatically pick it up and start deploying again. It should automatically pick it up and start deploying again. But if it doesn't, I will need to delete it and redeploy. It hasn't. Why? Okay, it's deploying again. It's deploying. Yes. Not .js, but JS. No dot in it. Bcrypt.js. But that's not the only way. I'm just telling you that's one way of doing it. I installed it, but that's not what I'm using now. I'm using the Node version to actually deploy. Okay. It's taking time. I just hope it goes live. We are going to wait for. So, are we going to manually edit the? Yes. You need to manually type it in. Engines, put an object. Inside the object, you specify node to use version 18.x. Now, the X here means any version of the 18 version. Maybe 18.1, 18.2, 18.3, any of them. That's what this X means here. It's still deploying, but what you just do manually, you type it in engines and then object. Inside the object, node should be version 18.x. I think I should just copy it and drop it for you here. It's still deploying. Yes, automatically. Just you need to update. It's not automatic. You type it yourself. So no, it will not automatically update it. You have to manually type in this to specify that you want it to use Node version 18. But this deployment is taking time now. Is it my network or? All right, we'll wait for it, but go ahead, ask your questions. So when you deploy, it is going to generate a URL for you. Now, if you want, you can buy a domain name and change that URL. But if you also don't want, you are allowed to use that particular URL generated for you. Now, it is that URL that you will use to as your request URL. You also send it to the front end as your base URL. And we also, let's see that this thing deploys faster. Why is it the other one deployed faster? Now, this could be because we are using a free account. It happens. Maybe because we are using a free account. Okay, don't waste all this time and still fail, because I will not forgive you. While we are still waiting, if you have any questions, go ahead. So, requesting version need, okay, I guess it's going to, I think it's going to deploy. No open ports detected. So here it says it's using Node version 18.20.4. So it's using version 18.2. Now it still failed. Why? The same bcrypt. It's not. No. It's not supposed to fail. It's not supposed to fail. I think I have to delete it. I'll have to delete it and redeploy again. It might be network, but I think that it's using it has, how will I put it? It catches something like that. So, but I will just switch again. In addition, I will switch to bcrypt.js to just sometimes it could be, I think it's because I need to delete it and then redeploy again, but I don't want to do that. So I will just switch to bcrypt.js and push again. So this is how we do backend. You can deploy this like 20 times and it's still failing. You don't give up. You still keep trying. You still keep trying it. That's what it means to be a backend developer. So I'll push it again. If you have the time, Peters, if you have the time, you can go ahead. If you have the time, but you need to complete what's actually in your project. I'm not the only person seeing the GitHub, the Google Classroom. So it will not be nice that what you actually given, you didn't complete it. You went ahead to give us extra. So, but if you finish your project and you still want to add more APIs, go ahead. Nobody's stopping you. So let me see if this is going to redeploy. I canceled it, but it's still deploying again, even though I canceled it. It's deploying. Let's see if it's going to, of course it should deploy because those, I did that before. What commands are you using to push to GitHub? Again, now I use 3 commands. The first one is git add dot. Let me clear this so that you see it. The first one is git add dot. Now this is for the second time. If you're pushing to the same repo the second time, git add dot. The second command is git commit -m with a commit message. Now my commit message simply says updated. And then the third one is git push -u origin masters. Now it is the same git command you used when pushing the first time. It's just that you're not going to be doing the git init, the git init will not be there. Which other one? I think that's the only thing. The git init will not be there, and also you'll not be adding URL. Git add origin URL. You'll not be doing the two of them, but the remaining ones, the three other ones, that's what I just did. So my GitHub has been deployed, and it says MongoDB connected. Now the reason why I say MongoDB connected is because I mistakenly deployed pushed my .env file together with it. So I pushed my .env file together with it. That is why it went ahead and connected. But if you don't push the .env file, which of course you will not, you should be adding all of them as the environmental variables, either here or before you deploy. So you click on this environment, go to settings, click on environment. You can add all your variables here. As a matter of fact, let me add mine. I will copy. Where are they? I'll copy all of them and then paste here. Then add variables. Then save and deploy. So like I said, it's going to give you a URL. It's very small. It might be very small on your end, but this is the URL. You can also, before I send it to you, let me be sure that it's actually working on my own end before I send the URL to you. So I'm going to try it out and see that the live URL is working. Plus. Okay. Minus. But this is for user login, and we have this body. I will go ahead and replace this local host and send. If it logs me in, of course, sorry for that network issue. So this is the URL. It's going to be on that dashboard. Let me stop sharing and share again. So this is the URL. If you deploy it, Render is going to drop a URL for you here on this dashboard. You see the URL here. And this URL is the URL to your backend. You'll be attaching your endpoints to that URL. /login, /users, / anything. So this is mine. Try logging in and confirm if you are able to access the URL. So that is how deployment works. The next thing we want to talk about is how to add the token to Postman. This token that was generated, how to add it as a bearer token. Is anyone here? If you can hear me, please drop a thumbs up. If you can hear me and you can see my screen, please drop a thumbs up. All right. Thank you. The request type is actually a post request, not GET. No. You don't paste this on the browser. If you paste it on the browser, it's not going to work. It's a post type, and you're expected to send a payload. Send the email, send the password. That is why I sent you the two of them, the URL and the payload. So if you want to try the deployed URL, the one I deployed, you can actually try it with this to see if it's working on your own end. Now that is all you need to do. You build your backend and you deploy it and you are done as a backend developer. Now you'll be sending the users, not the users actually. You'll be sending the front-end developer your URL and a list of all your endpoints and also what the endpoint is expecting as a payload. If you want to add, you can also add what they should expect. That is the response they will be getting, which is on this side if you also want to add it. But if you don't, it's important to add the URL, the endpoints, and all the payloads each endpoint is expecting. So that is that. What I will do again is I will log in again. I've logged in, and this login is coming from Render, the online server, not the local server now. So what I will do is, if I want to decode it, I will copy this token, copy it here first, go to the endpoint request I want to make, the request where tokens will be validated. Now, tokens are not validated on the login. No, because at this point, the user doesn't have any token. So you don't validate token on login because the user doesn't have any token at this point. Now, other requests after login is going to require token. So that is where you validate token. So on the next request, which is for this one, I call it auth. I'm going to go to authorization, click on these params, go to authorization, change the authorization type from anything. Is going to be no auth, but change it from no auth to bearer token. Change it to bearer token. And then down here where it says token, you paste the token. So you paste the token here and you hit send. It's supposed to decode the token and then return a user or a response to you if that token is correct, which is what I did. But if I go here and change one letter, I've deleted that E, change one letter from the token. If I send this request again, it's going to say invalid token. So, but if I go back and add that E, because I know that it is E I deleted, and send it back, is going to return successful. So that is what token does. If you tamper with this token, for example, I will remove this last E and send it again, it's going to say invalid signature. But if I add it again, because I know what I deleted, and send it, it will return successful. So that is what token does for you. Now, do you have any question on what we have done? Deploying the backend and also validating the no, not validating actually, because we didn't do validating today. Adding token to the bearer token. Any question so far? Any question? If you want to integrate external API, the best way to do that, we need to know the API we want to integrate. We can't just wake up and say we want to integrate APIs. Now, one of them could be Paystack. This is login. This is my login. I don't know what you mean by test it. But if I send my request, it's going to log me in and bring a token. So is that what you mean? Water, is that what you mean? So if you want us to integrate an API, tell us what API to integrate. If it's Flutter with Paystack, go ahead and create an account with Paystack. We will need that. You will need their token because they'll be giving you a secret key. So you'll be needing that secret key to integrate their API. But integrating API is not difficult. All you are doing is making requests to their own backend. The same way frontend is going to make requests to your own backend. It's absolutely the same way. No big deal about it. So create an account with Paystack, and so we can use that token or that secret key to actually integrate that API. Now, what is next on that after incubation program is entirely up to you. What is next is entirely up to you. So, but this is what I would say. A lot of persons have this ability to find gigs even before the incubation program or after the incubation program. So what I normally do, or what I do, is offer to my students that go ahead, search for a project. You find the project, you bring it, all of us work on it together, and we'll give you thanks for coming, and then we'll share the money for ourselves. So, but what I would advise is, whether before or after the incubation program, put yourself out there. I am not saying I'm the best and I work on every project, but I don't think there's any project I will not have an idea on how to work on it. If I don't, I have friends who have the idea on how to work on that project. So put yourself out there. Don't be scared of failing, but be scared of how much you charge them. So put yourself out there, find your project. It doesn't matter. There are so many. LinkedIn alone is going to hook you up. In 2 weeks of trial, LinkedIn is going to hook you up. If you try LinkedIn for 2 weeks, it's going to hook you up. Node.js, put yourself out there as a Node.js developer, find the project and get it. Now, if you get it, what you can do is bring in your colleagues, bring them in. You don't have to work on it alone, but if you can, it's fine. But if you can't, but if you feel like you don't know enough after the incubation program, you feel like you don't know enough, then you can still go ahead and learn more. But this is what I would say. You can never know enough. You will still feel the need to learn more. That is what tech is all about. We keep learning every day. You will still feel the need to learn more. You still see the need to learn more. Now, Access Bank is offering gigs, is offering jobs, like their internship, graduate, what is it called? There's a name they call it, graduate internship or something. Yes, they do. But that is not the only, that shouldn't be the only, how will I put it now? That shouldn't be the only focus. There are gigs everywhere. Yeah, graduate training program. There are gigs everywhere. And you are capable of handling it. You're capable of handling any gigs anywhere. Just put yourself, now you can be waiting. Now, I think that Access Bank code is going to come at the end of your program or towards the end of the year. That's when that graduate program is going to come. They will also send you emails to apply. And if you're lucky, you'll be taken. If you're good, if you do well, you'll be taken. And but it doesn't mean, even if you're not taking, there are gigs out there to take up. Yes, I will show you how to integrate Paystack, but we need Paystack secret key or public key, one of those keys. And you can only get that key if you create an account with Paystack. So you need to first create an account with Paystack to get that key before you start talking about how to integrate. Now, integrating Paystack is not difficult. It's actually easy. If you are able to do this for the 4 persons or the persons who are going to be sending emails, If you're able to send users email, that is actually a little bit difficult than integrating Paystack and verifying it. If you can send user certificate to their email, it means you can integrate Paystack. It's one line, not like one line of code actually, but you can do it automatically without wasting time. So it's not a big deal to integrate Paystack. I think it becomes a big deal if you have no idea how it's done. That is when you think, oh, Paystack is a big deal. Implementing money, transfer of money. Actually, wisdom has shown you that transferring of money from your account is not difficult. If you have the access, you can create an API that will be upgraded. Now, I know somebody who built an API. I think that was when I've forgotten the name of this coin. The coin was attached to an API that whenever what is his name? What is this guy's name again? Elon Musk mentions the name of this coin. Whenever he mentions the name of the coin, the API will buy that coin. So if he mentions the coin plenty times, the API will buy that coin plenty times. So it's not that a big deal. You can actually build your APIs to do more. If you can build your own API, is it integrating somebody's API that you don't know how to integrate? Integrating API is very easy. The main deal is building the API. So if you can build your own API, you can integrate anybody's API. Yeah, I think it's Dogecoin. Yeah. So the backend URL seems like an actual website. Yes. The backend URL is more like an actual website URL, but there is one difference. There is one difference, and that is what I'm about to show you now, which is going to be the tip of it all. So, but the backend URL is like an actual website URL. You can buy a domain and change that URL, have a customized domain name, or use a subdomain. So if you buy one domain and then you use that domain for front end, you can use a subdomain for the back end. Yes, you can do that also. So what I want to talk about is wrapping up the whole backend. Now we have seen the backend, maybe not everything, but at least you know how to build one API. If you can build one API, all you need to know is to build any other API, you just need to study what the output should be, what the result should be. Now, if you know what the result should be, then you will know what to accept from the users, how to perform the logic in order to bring out that result. That is all API is about. API is about sending out results. So if you know what you're expected to send out, then you should know what to accept, how to perform the logic, and then send it out. Now, all of these things are JavaScript, meaning that whatever it is that I want to do, it can be done with JavaScript. With a little research, you'll find it anywhere on Google or Stack Overflow, anywhere you can find it. So, but the way we've built our API now, if you build it, it's fine, it works. But there is one missing part. If you go to job sites or maybe recruitment portals, most of these HRs, they will tell you that we want a backend developer who is conversant with the MVC rule. MVC rule. But the funny thing is, they don't even know what MVC rule is actually. So, but a lot of persons put this as a criteria, and you see developers, they will shy away from applying to that job because it says we want a developer that follows the MVC rule. So that is what I want to teach you now. What is the MVC rule? Joshua, if you can repeat that, I don't know the part you're asking about that you don't get. So the MVC rule is simple. What it means is that you have your models, which of course we've been building models here. The second thing is you have your views, but you will not be building views because you are not rendering HTML. Instead, you'll be having routes. And of course, I've used the route for you. And then the final part is your controllers. And I think I've used controllers, but I didn't call them controllers. So this is what the MVC rule means. MVC rule means you must be creating models. You should have routes pointing to different endpoints, and you should be having controllers. The backend URL is an actual website URL. It is. But there is only one thing that separates it from a front end or being a front end URL. For example, if you have something like www.yourwebsite.com. Now this here is actually a normal website URL. This www. It is. But what would differentiate this from a backend URL is that for a backend URL, it will have /API. So whenever you see /API, that means this URL is a backend URL. It's not a front-end URL. So that is the difference between a front-end URL and a back-end URL. Otherwise, they are all the same thing. The same place where you buy domain name for the front-end is also the same place you buy domain name for the back-end. They're the same URL. You can use a URL today for front-end. Tomorrow you decide to change it and use it for the back-end. It will still work. It will still work. So there's no difference. I want to show you where the difference comes in. This API. How to add this API. That's where I am going to. Yeah, the MVC model view controller. So a lot of persons think that you go to settings, and you'll see your API keys. But you need to first change this from live to test. Change this to test mode, and then go from what is it called? Sorry. What is it called again? Settings and API keys. That's where you find your API keys. So go to settings, API keys, but change this live mode to test mode, like that. Well, they can access your backend, but that is where it is important to validate token, because anybody can have access to your URL, but they cannot make requests that will go through because you are validating every single route except for the login and register. So in order to use your backend URL, they must log in or register because you are validating token for every other single route. So even if they have your backend URL, of course, they can try to access it, but until they have a token, they cannot gain response. So that is it. The MVC, like back to where we were, the MVC it means models, view, and route. But like I said, a lot of person will make it a big deal. Say, do you know the MVC rule? How can you use MVC rule? Any question that they throw up, they're just trying to destabilize you because they don't know what it is. HR, just Google it. A backend developer, just Google your requirement. I used to do it. You Google the requirement. What I want to hire a backend developer. What should the backend developer know? Google will just bring out everything. As a matter of fact, I had one job interview. They listed so many things. And then I said, okay, I don't know all of it, but I know some of it. Not all, I know some of it. I applied for the job. The job is in Lagos. It's actually an on-site job, not remote job. I applied for it, and then they were to interview me. We had 2 persons on the live session to interview me. They were busy Googling questions to ask me. So they were asking me questions they got from Google. And I didn't know at first, but I then realized it. I paused and I asked the guy, sorry, are you Googling questions to ask me? Like, it was so, I don't want to say embarrassing, but I caught him red-handed. And after I caught him, the following day, that the interview ended there. He said, we're going to get back to you. The following day, the girl was calling me. The lady was calling me. Can I move down to Lagos and get the job? So what I'm saying is, a lot of persons put all of this in. They don't know it. They don't. As a matter of fact, they have no idea. It's only a backend developer that knows what it is. So when you are sitting down for an interview, and the second thing is, nobody that is interviewing you that wants you to fail. If you're a backend, they don't want you to fail. The reason is because there are not a lot of backend developers. There are not a lot. So we have backend developers, but they are not enough. So if they get the opportunity of interviewing 3 backend developers or 4 or 5, they are not interviewing them to see who will fail. They are interviewing them to pass and see who is going to do better. So have that at the back of your mind. They don't want you to fail. But if you notice that they're asking you questions that are complete English language, that as a backend developer, we're not good with English. But if you see that the person's English is too good to be true, you know that this person, are you actually Googling this thing from Google? Just ask them, because it happens. They will be Googling it and be asking you. And as a matter of fact, what you answer doesn't really matter because they don't know the answer themselves. So what you answer doesn't really matter. You might answer it very well. You might answer it partly, but mentioning just one word that will be in that their answer will mean you got it right, because they have absolutely no idea what it is. So MVC rule, of course, you know what the model is and you know what controller is. Now, you don't know what controller is because I haven't told you what controllers is. So what I will do is this. I want to build a project. I don't know if I need to start from scratch for this MVC rule. So we don't have enough time. We have barely 30 minutes. Should I build it here in this project, or should I build a new project? Bear in mind, if I build a new project, I'll be very, very fast. I will try to be very, 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 very fast because we have just 30 minutes. So, a new project. I will be very, 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 very fast. Where is Karim? Where is Juliana? Abi? Where is Cynthia? Where is who else? Rema. A new project. A new project. Okay, let's start a new project then. I'll close this. Create a new project. I'll cancel this one. Control C to cancel. Create a new folder inside there. I will call it MVC. MVC. So inside this MVC, I want to install a few dependencies. I'll say, since my network is going, I'm doing sudo because my laptop is going to give me issues, but you don't have to. npm install express, install mongoose, install bcrypt.js so that I can actually deploy it. bcrypt.js, install .env, install. Why am I putting comma? I'm not supposed to put comma. You don't need comma, please. You don't need these commas. So what else am I installing? bcrypt.js, JSON web token. Yeah, JSON web token. I think that's all. Let me go Did I close it? Yeah, I did close it. So I will install these ones. Click on install and wait for it to install. Like I said, it's going to disturb me. So let me use sudo then. So I want to install nodemon npm install as a dev dependency nodemon. I'm installing now. You can install everything before you start. Okay, I need to use sudo again. I forgot. All right, so I have this installed. I can then open it up with VS Code. I am using sudo because to install anything here on my system, you need to be an admin. You need to enter the password. It will not allow you. So that is why I'm using sudo. So sudo means I want to install as an admin. Why is this taking time? Are you serious? Not again, not again. Every single time. Oh my. I was supposed to do npm init before installing these things, but I forgot. The first thing would have been npm init -y before installing anything. So now I have package.json, and then I can install my nodemon and then install the other dependencies, these ones. Yeah, so here now I have these dependencies. I have dependency, I have dev dependencies. I want to set up my script. That's like the first thing I want to do. Start script, node index.js. Now it doesn't have to be index.js, it can be anything, but dev index nodemon rather. Nodemon index.js. Save that. I don't type it. I use arrow key, the arrow up key to go to the last thing I did. The arrow up key. So save this, and that is that. I want to bring in index.js. So the first thing is to bring in express. Const express is equal to require express. I want to bring in what is it called? .env. Const .env is equal to require .env, and I can actually configure immediately. Configure in one line. I think that, let me stop there. Cause app is equal to the express function. Run on the express function. Then app.listen. Listen on port. So I need to create my .env file. .env file, and I can actually copy all the .env from the other projects. Where is it? So I'll copy all these things here, all of them, and come back to this .env and paste it. So now I can close this .env. I want my port to come from process environment. yeah, dot port, or fall back to whether 7,000, 8,000, it doesn't really matter. So I've done listen on port. Now, if you start listening, I want to run a request or a function that we console log server started running on, and it's supposed to be backticks, not this one, backticks, so that I can capture the port on port. So my server is listening. This is the, I want to just go ahead and put my middleware app.use so that I will not forget it. I do forget it. Express.json like this. What else? I want to configure my database, like to log in database, connect DB. So I will call this to be DB. And inside here, I will bring in Mongoose. I think I installed Mongoose. Let me be sure. Yeah, I have Mongoose, so I can bring in Mongoose. Const Mongoose is equal to require Mongoose. So after that, I want to connect my D. So I will say const the URL or URI, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it URL, some people call it URI. Will be coming from the process.env.mongoose URL. So I want to see what the name is. MongoDB URL. Then after that, I will create a function const connect DB or connect to DB. It's going to be an async function that will await mongoose.connect. Mongoose.connect connect to this URL, and I want to see it's supposed to be a string. So if you're not adding this as a string, then you should be adding this as a string. Where is it? Here. Backticks this and $. So if you connect dot then, I want you to run a function that we console log clg mongodb connected. Save that and then make sure you're exporting this file. Module.export is equal to connect db. And I have that. I can bring in my MongoDB here, my database here. What am I writing? Sorry. I will say connect DB. Where is connect? Connect DB. Do auto import by clicking on it and then invoking it and save. Is there any other thing that is remaining? Practically everything is done. So I'm going to try and run this function with npm run dev. There might be error, there might also not be any error. Now the error here says invalid scheme, expected connection string, but it got something else. Yeah, I installed NodeMon, I did, but it's talking about the Mongoose connection string. So the connection string is this, and where did I use it? I used it here. Mongoose.connect. This is it. So why is it saying? It could be that this version, no, it's asking me to get it like this or like this. And that is what I used. Process the MongoDB. Okay. Sometimes, no, that is yes. Sometimes it could mean that it's not able to access this URL from the .env. Sometimes, so you have to configure .env here again. Sometimes it happens, but other times it doesn't. So I just want to confirm that I configured .env very well, and I have this file called .env. So what I would do is I will try configuring .env in the same file. Sometimes it happens, and that solves the issue. But I'll cancel this and try again. If it doesn't work, it means that wasn't the issue. Server started running, MongoDB connected. So the issue was that sometimes you need to configure this .env inside this file again, because most times where you use the process.env may not get it. But that's not a problem. It shouldn't be a problem, but sometimes it does. It's a problem. So MongoDB is connected, everything is connected. We know how to set up a schema, so I'm not going to bother about setting up a schema now. We want to talk about the MVC. Now, what is the MVC? The MVC says you need to have the models folder, your models. You need to have the controller folder, controllers. And also you need to have your route, not inside the controller this time, but outside. You need to have routes. So now we have done all of this. We have it. We have done it. So some person will be saying, no, this is new. It is not new. You have done it, but you don't know that what you are doing is actually the MVC. So I want to show you that you have done it, but you don't know that what you just did was the MVC. So I'm going to open this. Now the MVC is this. Let's take the login, for example. From here, this post to here is our route. From here down here is our controllers. So in essence, the route is your endpoint. Your controllers is your function that handles the request. So you've done it. But the difference now is that you are not putting the two of them together. They have to be separated. So the MVC is what we've been doing, but we just added everything together. So like I said, this endpoint from here to here is actually your route, whereas the function to handle the request is your controller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this one here. So I will copy the function, this login function. I think I can use the login function. So I will copy the login function and create a controller here. I will call it, you can call it anything. I'll call it auth controller.js. You can call it anything. But this is going to be const login function. Login function. So this is how I just spell login function and paste the login. So I didn't do anything new. I just copied from that async to the end and removed these. There's going to be what is it called? This bracket at the end, but you don't need that bracket. This bracket at the end is for this. You don't need it. All you need is the function inside it. The function inside it is what we call the controllers. So the function that handle the request is what we call the controllers. So I just copied the function inside it without doing any changes. Where is it again? Here, I just copied the function inside it and named it because it starts from here. It doesn't have a name. So I just gave it a name. I will format this better. So here I will export that function because it's going to be more than one function. So I will export module.export is equal to login function. No, I don't want to export as default. I will export as an object. Login function. like this. This is the first one. The second one is the models. We have created models. You know how to create models. So I'm going to just copy the model here, all of it, and add it to the model folder. Now you can call it anything, but I will call mine the auth model.js, and paste the model inside. So we have done the M, we've done the C, remaining the V. It remains the V. Now the V here is this part, the endpoint, the name of this endpoint. It does not include the app. It starts from the request type till the login. It doesn't include the app. It starts from the request type to the login. That is your route. That together is your route. Now, how do you define it? I'm going to come here and create a new route inside. I had the route folder. Yeah, I'm going to come here and create a route inside this route folder, and I will call it the auth route. Auth routes.js. So when you want to use auth route, instead of your request to hit the app directly, because this is our app is defined here. So instead of the request hitting the app directly, it will be hitting on a router. So what we are going to do is bring in express, because I want to use the express router is equal to require express router. So I'll say const router is equal to the express router. So I brought in express, and I'm taking the router that comes with express, and I'm saving it here. So what I can now do is define this endpoint here. So I will say something like this: router dot post. Now it is no longer what's it called, app.post now, but rather router.post, because the request is not supposed to be hitting on the app, but it should be hitting on the router. And then post login. Now, after this login, you want to put the function that handles the request. And the function that handles the request, we call it login function. So you import it automatically. So this is, by the way, we have linked the function to the route. Now we need to hook this up to the app, and that is it. That's all. So what I will do is I will export this router module dot export is equal to router. No, not express router, just the router I created. Router. Yeah, and save that. So how do we hook this up to the app instead of the router? So what I will do is I will come back to my main file. I'll set up just a common API, app.get, and this is going to be just the normal get request. I take the request and the response, and pass in this. I want to return a response with a status of 200. This is the default message we should all have, to a message that will say welcome to our server. Welcome to our server. Now this is so, like I said, the MVC, this part, this function here is your controller. From here to here is your router. Now we want to hook it up to the app. What we're going to do is import that auth router. So I'll say const auth router, you can call it anything, is equal to require dot slash, it's coming from route / auth router. So I'm importing this auth router here. And what do I want to do? I will say let the app use that router. App.use, passing the auth router, and save. By doing this, we're done. And now to confirm that this is actually done, we'll try and hit the login endpoint again. So this is the login endpoint. I want to remove the URL. I will remove this URL and go with is localhost 8081, and I will send. It says users is not defined. Now the reason why users is not defined is because we copied the function. We did not import users. We did not import these users. So I will import users and save. I think bcrypt needs to be imported also. I will import bcrypt because I'm using bcrypt. Const bcrypt is equal to require bcrypt.js. Is there another thing I used here? JSON web token. JSON web token. I need to bring it in. Const jwt is equal to require JSON web token. So save that. Is there any other thing I used? This function to send email, we need to bring it in, otherwise we're going to have error. So I will just comment it out for now because I'm not bringing it in for now. So that will be it, and then I'll try logging in again. Log in, and it has successfully logged me in. So ladies and gentlemen, that is how you build your backend to follow the MVC route. All your functions that handles the request, all of them should be in the controllers. All your functions that handle the request should be in the controllers. And then the next thing you want to do is that your route, you bring in the router to handle the route. And each route, you hook up the function that now you can actually put in your middleware here. If you have any validation middleware here, you can add it here. It's allowed. You can add your validation middleware here, but for now I don't have any, so I'm not adding validation middleware. And also all the routes that belong to this auth route, maybe the sign up, the sign in, the register, the forgot password, or the user, all of them will come in here. All right, you need it. So, but that is not all. The main reason why we use this thing is to differentiate. Now, I want to differentiate the front-end URL and the back-end URL. How do I do that? Okay, like I said, it's not that easy. It shouldn't be that simple, but it's easy to pick up. You can always pick it up very easily at any time. This is the real world backend. This is how you build it in a real life project like this. So how do I do what I want to do? Now, before it uses the auth, I want to attach something to it. What is that I want to attach? /API and save. So why am I adding? It's not going to enter your head immediately. No, it's not. This is like, would I say, you are trying to add the final or the finishing touch to your backend. That is what it is. But I will implore you to watch the videos and you try to understand it. If you don't, next week come back with your questions. We're going to look at it again and then try it again. But if you have any question for now, you can ask. So the reason why I'm adding this API before the router is so that for every single request, the URL needs to have API /API 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 before the endpoint. That is why I am attaching API here, because every request, the URL should have /API before the endpoint. That way, we know that this is a backend request. So if I try to send this request here, it will fail. The reason why it failed is because the backend has changed the URL. You need to attach /API, and then send the request again. And now you can log in. So every request must come with /API. That is how we know that you are a good back-end developer. So that is all. But if you don't understand it, it's fine. It's okay. You are not expected to know everything at once. It's not. If backend was easy, everybody would do it. But backend is actually easy in a way. It's only when you understand it, it becomes easy. But apart from that, some people say it's difficult. But if you don't understand it at this point, I understand. But if you say you don't understand everything, then there will be a problem.
Sir, the /API, is it /API with the name of the endpoint or just /API?
Now, the name of the endpoint is inside this router. So if I open this router, this is where it is. /login. So instead of coming here to add /API, and you are going to build so many endpoints, why will you be adding API to each one of them when you can just group all of them into one router, all of them here into one router, and then come to where they are being used and attach API once? So even if I come here and I have so many endpoints, for example, this is, no, I need to undo that. So instead of attaching this API here, if I have something like this, maybe this one is a register. You can't access this register without attaching /API, because all of these routes are grouping together inside the auth route. And the auth route is being used here. And we are saying here, before you call this auth route, make sure that the request has /API before it will call up any endpoint inside the auth router. Now, this is our auth router. There will be so many endpoints here, so many registration, any other endpoint you want to add here, you can add it here. If you have another schema, if you want to create a new router for that schema, you can go ahead. But if you want to join all of them together here, you can also go ahead, join all of them together. But the deal here is that for anyone to be responding, or before anyone will respond, the request needs to have /API in the URL before these endpoints will respond. Otherwise, it will no longer match. So that is why we add APIs. So I don't know if that answered your question. Now, if the route folder is going to be only one, it's going to be only one. But this is what I do. If I have 5 schemas, I'm going to have 5 different routes. So this is auth route. I can have another route, call it transaction route, trans route. I can have another route, call it, what is the next thing? Wallet route. I can have another route, call it staff route. I can have another route, call it admin route, depending on the number of schemas I have. But you don't have to do it that way. That is my own way. You can also add all your routes inside this one route. But you're not creating a new route folder. No, it is only one route folder. But inside the route, you can have multiple route files or just a single route file that will have contain all your routes. That is what MVC is all about. So if anybody is asking you about MVC, now even if you don't know it, you should have an idea what MVC is. Now, a lot of persons put it as a job requirement. They will put it, now you might know back end. You might even know how to build this thing, but if they don't tell you that this is what MVC is, and then you show up at an interview, you will think you don't know MVC. But thank God we know. Now, your logic is the functions. Yes, so all your functions would be inside the controller. Now, you can have multiple controller. What I do is this. If I have 5 schemas, I am going to have, now it depends on the number of models I have. If I have 5 models, I will have 5 different controllers and 5 different routes. Each one for different model. Each one for different model. But if you want to group all of them together inside one controller, you are allowed to do so. But I don't. If I have different models, I create different controllers and different routes for each of those models. That's what I do. So yeah, any other question? Go ahead at your leisure time, just go ahead, look at the video. It should make sense, but if it doesn't make sense, come back next week. We may not have a class, we don't have much to learn next week, so I could just take your questions next week and while you're working on your project. All right. Any other question before we call it a day? So this is what MVC is. Now, all the endpoints we've written, you can actually bring out those functions and add them. This is not a keyword though. I'm the one that defined this FNX like this. This is how I want to spell function. But you just know that all your functions will be in the controllers. If you finished your project today, you are free to submit it today. As a matter of fact, I will want you to submit it today. But if you've not, don't worry, you still have time. Any period, any time between now till the 12th week, anytime you're done, just submit. All right. Any other question before we call it a day? Yeah, it's a weekly submission. There's a weekly submission. Now, the weekly submission is you show me something by Friday. I know you have started your project. The following week, Friday, you show me something else so that I know you did new things. You've added new lines of code. That is for people who have not completed their project. But if you complete your project this week, there is no need showing me any project next week and the coming week. No, you don't need to show me something every week. If you complete a project today, you don't need to show me anything on Friday or next week. No, just send your project and I will grade your project. But if you've not completed your project, every week I need to see something. So I know that you are adding new lines of code. I know you are working on something. So any other question before we call it? I know this is actually tough. This is the backend. If you learn it, you become a backend developer. But if you don't learn it, you become a back and a dev, no end and no developer in it. So, but in any ways, I'm here to see you through. If you have any questions, if you have project you're working on, now project should be when I have time. But if you give me time ahead, for some persons who ask me questions and I don't respond, it's because you asked that question today, and you're expecting a response today. It can be difficult. I may not be able to respond to you the day you sent that message. So if you send me a message today, there's every possibility I will respond when I am free. And I could be free tomorrow. I could be free in the night. So you send your REST messages like that. If you're working on any project, you want me to get involved, you want guidance or anything, I'm all yours. I'll always help you and guide you through. But if you don't do the project, you don't get through to incubation, it will be difficult that you call me for a project and I will respond. It will be very, very difficult because I know you want me to do the project. I know a lot of students who have come to me with that kind of request. Before I respond to you and accept to help you out in a project, I will want to know that you have the capacity to understand anything I tell you first. So that to understand anything I tell you first before I can actually join you on any project. So, but if you have any project, go ahead. Just don't be afraid of any project. If I don't know how to do it, I have friends who know how to do it, who come and do it for you. But you are going to learn. Like, it will be your project. You be the one doing majority of it because we also have our own projects. So that is why it will be difficult that you don't understand anything I'm teaching and you are calling me on a project. It means you are calling me to come and do the entire project. And if I'm doing the entire project, there's every likelihood that you may not even understand anything from it. I will just do it alone and then deliver it like that. But if you have the capacity to understand, we know, and then we can assist you in your project. Our numbers are dropping. Actually, this should be our last backend class. This should be our last backend class. We're recording 14, but that's okay. That's okay. At the end of the day, you might just have maybe, how will I put it? Maybe 8 persons that are very good with backend. And that's how it happens. You just have 8 persons that are very, very good with backend. But I will hope that all of you, 15 of us, will be good with backend and move on to build projects. Also, if there's any project that offers are sent to me, I will always send it your way. I've done that so many times. I've had a situation where somebody called me for a project in Lagos and I don't stay in Lagos. I had to fix 2 students together, 2 of them, call those who are in Lagos, fix the 2 of them together to take the job. I've also had students who I assigned projects manually and the person wasn't doing well. I told him to call another student so that the 2 of them would join them. Now, at this point, you don't need to make too much gain. So if they give you a project, it shouldn't be to make, you want to eat the whole money alone. No, 2 of you can be running the project as one and building it together as one person. To the company, you are one person, but it's actually the 2 of you working on the project. So that can come up, but it will only be for those who I know that they have the capacity. You actually can learn. You can do this stuff on your own. All right, I'm going to push this to GitHub now. I've created a lot of GitHub accounts, but I don't have the time to delete them. I will delete them from next week. MVC, or let's call it cohort 2 MVC, cohort 2 MVC, and it's going to be public. Create the file. So the first thing will be git init, git add dot, and then git commit. Git commit, then add the origin. Oh my, it's adding node modules. I always forget to add .git ignore before pushing this thing. It's adding the node modules, which is very, very not good. So what I will do is I will look for this git file and delete it so that I don't push node modules. Where is the MVC? I used to see that view options. Where do I normally see the hidden files? I used to see the hidden files, but right now I don't see them again. So what I will do is, what can I do to remove the? Yeah. RF, remove. I can actually remove it. Why am I wasting my time? Yeah. Are you asking? Your project is supposed to follow the MVC rule. Like, why would you want to build your project without following the MVC rule? That is what makes it a professional backend. Otherwise, it's not professional. We're still learning. It has to follow the standard. MVC is the standard. I want to remove from Git. Git remove. Where is it? Node_modules. Not removing node modules repository without RF. Is that R? I think I need -R. See why I hate all this documentation. RF, RM, let me see, -RF. Okay, the more you look, the less you see. Remove, Git. RM is not working now. Git RM. I think I need RF. Why did I forget .git ignore? Why did I forget .git ignore? RM, RF. No, I don't want to remove the dot. Okay, just go ahead and remove it then. Remove it then. Okay, so let me try git init again. Git init. No, not before git init. Add .git ignore. .git ignore. And ignore the node_modules. Ignore .env and save. Git init. Initialize or reinitialize? Which one? Initialize. Git add dot. Then git commit. Where's commit? Commit is this. Yeah. Then git push origin master. Okay. Git push -u origin master. Why? Oh, I haven't linked the URL. Sorry. Link the URL. Okay, then push master. All right, then refresh this. It's okay. Share the link there. So please remember to edit project 2, include a new task. The thing is, I may not remember. I may remember, as a matter of fact, but it's not only your project. I called the 3 of you, maybe 4 of you, or maybe 5 of you to get, like, you're building it independently. If you want to come together and build it, that's also fine. But I want to know what you're doing, how you're doing it. I want to get that one, because we're adding it. Is actually going to be how your certificate will be given to you. So I'm not the one building it. I'm the one supposed to build it. Actually, cohort 1 is supposed to build it, but the news got to me. I will say the feedback got to me very late. So you are building it. It's going to be for your certificate. It's not part of your project actually. So just let me know whatever you're encountering. Send me private message. Just whatever you want me to see, send to me. I also see it too. All right, ladies and gentlemen. In the absence of any question, if you are okay to end the class here, please drop a thumbs up so that we can end the class. All right. All right. Thank you. See you all next week. Bye.